Today, we are going to be looking at some of the weirdest, darkest, and most disturbing archaeological discoveries of all time. From bodies found in trees to bones of people who endured horrific deaths. Let's talk about this and more only in today's video. Starting off this countdown, we have the missing couple. Back on August 15th, 1942, husband and wife Marcelin and Francine Dumoulin of Switzerland went out to milk their cows and never returned home. Their 7 children wondered what happened to them for years, and they never gave up hope. 75 years later, their last remaining child got the answer. Their bodies were found frozen in the Alps after a glacier covering them melted. Researchers believe that the couple had fallen into a crevice which they stayed trapped in until they froze to death. The only photos released to the public were the items that they found next to the bodies, like their hiking boots and destroyed clothing. Actual photos of their frozen corpse has not been released due to respect of the family, but also for our own sake. It would be pretty gruesome to see a body frozen to death. In our 9th spot, we have the bones in a tree. In 2015, Clooney, Ireland was hit with a massive winter storm. As a result, a number of trees were uprooted, including a 250-year-old tree. What people didn't know is that this tree was hiding a very, very dark secret. Entangled in the roots of this tree was a mass of bones. After investigating, they found the bones belonged to a young fellow who died between the year 1030 and 1200. To make it worse, his ribs and hands had knife marks, suggesting that he was attacked, murdered, and then buried there. Here is a picture of the tree, but photos of the lad's bones in the tree roots has not been shared with the public. In our 8th spot today, we have the bog bodies. This discovery actually happened quite recently in terms of archaeology. It just happened over 15 years ago. A group of archaeologists were exploring an area in Scotland when they came across a number of bodies. But these were unlike any skeletal remains that they have ever seen before. No, these bodies were the combination of 6 different people fused together. Let me explain. The bodies were of 1 female and 1 male, who died about 3,000 years ago. But because of the state that they were in, it's believed that their bodies were thrown into a bog where they mummified for about 300 to 600 years, and then after that they were actually taken out and buried. So that right there is commitment. After analyzing the bodies, they realized that the woman's jaw was way too large for her skull, and the man's limbs were all off. Well, it turns out the female was combined with body parts from several others that died around the same time as her, whereas the male had body parts from people who died hundreds of years before him. And the bones weren't just pushed in together, they were actually attached properly. This has still baffled researchers. They literally found a bunch of Frankenstein bodies or something, and we don't know how they were created. Was this part of some weird ritual? Was this the works of a serial killer? Or did the bog somehow fuse them together? Honestly, we might never know. The medieval home for nuns. Back in 2015, British archaeologists made a pretty disturbing discovery that left them speechless. Over in Oxford, England, while excavating Littlemore Priory, which is a medieval home for nuns, they found 92 skeletons. These skeletons date back to between 600 and 900 years old. Lead archaeologist Paul Murray said, and I quote, "We knew the church was there and we knew we could find something, but the number of burials was a real surprise." Some of the remains they found belonged to a person with leprosy who most likely was shunned because of their disease. They also found a skull from someone who died from blunt force trauma to their head, and a nun that was buried face down. Face down burials were meant for people who were either witches or accused of witchcraft or a sinner. In this case, they think that that nun was promiscuous and was getting on with priests, which is a sin, and so she was killed and buried with her face down. Photos from the site have not been released due to how unsettling they are. In our 6th spot, we have the pit of amputated arms. In 2015, a team working in France got a terrifying glimpse into the past after stumbling upon this next discovery. They found 7 severed arms that had been brutally chopped off, probably when the victims were still alive, and then the arms were thrown into the bottom of a pit. The pit and arms date back to 6,000 years ago, and researchers believe that the arms belonged to farmers. To make matters worse, the arms were at the bottom of the pit, and on top of it were dozens of bodies just piled on. The bodies on top still had their arms attached, so they weren't the victims of the severed arms. but they had their skulls crushed in. It's still not clear what happened to these people. We don't know who killed them or why their arms were removed in the first place. All we know is that it's evidence of a horrible massacre. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with humans eating other humans. In 2019, archaeologists working at a site in southwest Germany came across 1,000 human remains. The remains were unearthed near a village from a 7,000-year-old human burial site. Now, archaeologists come across bones all the time. To them, it's no big deal, but these bones were. These people weren't just killed, they had their skulls scraped clean. The ribs had been peeled from the vertebrae, and some of the bones were snapped in half and their marrow had been sucked out. So this was evidence that humans attacked them, killed, and then ate them. Moving on at number 4, we have the witch bottle. Back in 2019, a number of artifacts known as the witch bottle were found in homes in England. One of them was found in a chimney of a pub during demolition. Now, witches' bottles are really quite strange. The one in the chimney contained fish hooks, human teeth, and urine. Other bottles have been composed of fingernails, human hair, bent pins, nails, shards of glass, and thorns. Typically, they are found in churchyards, riverbanks, or old buildings. They were made as a way to ward witches off. Apparently, the urine attracted the witches to the bottle, and then they would be trapped by the pins or the other sharp objects. I mean, it's kind of cool, but also it's definitely a strange find. Moving on to number 3, we have the whale vertebra. Archaeologists excavating a Scottish Iron Age site in 2016 came across something they never thought in a million years they would find. They found a hollowed out whale vertebra that was then filled with a human jawbone and the remains of 2 newborn lambs. Definitely an interesting collection of things. These items date back to about the mid-2nd century AD, and to this day, it still baffles scientists. Did the people back then hunt down this whale, or was it washed up on shore? The bigger question is why? Why did they take it, hollow it out, and then put things inside? And whose skull is that? Not only that, but the whale vertebra was held in place by a pair of red deer antlers and a large grinding stone. So this mystery just keeps getting weirder and weirder. In our second spot, we have the shackled skeletons. In 2016, a number of archaeologists were excavating a site in Athens, Greece, when they came across something straight out of a horror film. They found a group of 80 skeletons chained up with iron shackles around their wrists. To make matters worse, the skeletons had a terrified expression plastered on their faces. Their necks were flexed and their jaws hung open wide. Studies showed that all the skeletons were males who suffered horrific deaths. These skeletons belonged to prisoners from around 650 BC. Their death was very gruesome. They were all chained up, and then an executioner went down the line killing these men one by one, while the others watched, just waiting their turn. So no wonder why they look like they're screaming for their lives, because they probably were, and that is absolutely horrifying. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the hollowed out tree trunk. In 2019 in Switzerland, archaeologists stumbled upon an Iron Age Celtic woman placed inside of a hollowed out tree trunk. This acted as her coffin. She was placed there in a dress made out of sheep's wool, a sheepskin coat, and shawl. She was also buried alongside amber and glass necklaces, bronze bracelets, and other valuables, meaning she must have been a very important figure of her time. Archaeologists found the grave while renovating a school complex, and they were completely stunned, as anyone would be. Imagine being like, oh, what a nice tree trunk. Wait, there's a body in there. That's how I imagine their reaction was. Photos have not been released to the public, only animated, reenactment photos have. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. What do you do for a living? Are there any archaeologists out there watching this video? If so, let me know in the comments below. And now, speaking of comments, let's move on to our comment shout-out portion. Plazer Chid commented, oh my god, did you cut your hair? No, in the video, it was literally just like that. And everyone was commenting, what's wrong with her hair? Because it looked like I had a bob. It looked really bad. I wish I refilmed those videos, but oh well, that's why my hair is at the front today. Angel commented, excellent lineup, thank you for the upload, Merry Christmas. All right, and that was commented on a video that was pretty dark and depressing, so Merry Christmas to you too, happy holidays. And Fatima Pina commented, most amazing top 10 never fails to entertain us. Thank you so much. I really like that. It makes me smile, so thank you. All right, guys, that's all the comments I'm showing out for today's video. Make sure to comment something down below for a chance to be featured in my next comment shout out. And as always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to Most Amazing Top 10 for more amazing videos. I've been your host, Lindsay Ivan, and I'll see you when I see ya. Bye. Bog bodies, what you gonna do?